What's up, Skull Nation? Are you ready for one of the wildest Minnesota Vikings offseason twists we've heard in years? Because if this rumor becomes reality, it could completely flip the Vikings quarterback room upside down in 2026. Today we're diving deep into a scenario that sounds almost unreal. Kyler Murray potentially hitting the open market. And here's the bombshell. The Vikings wouldn't even have to trade a single draft pick to get him. Stay with me, because if this plays out the way reports are hinting, the Minnesota Vikings could land one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in football without sacrificing future draft capital. And that changes everything. Right now, the Minnesota Vikings are scanning the quarterback market with serious intent. Behind J.J. McCarthy, the franchise wants veteran insurance, leadership, and maybe even competition. There are roughly 25 to 30 quarterback options floating around this offseason. Some are bridge guys, some are backups, some are fading names. But one name towers above the rest in terms of raw talent. That name? Kyler Murray. And if the Arizona Cardinals decide to release him instead of trade him, the Vikings suddenly enter a completely different conversation. Let's be clear, this isn't just random internet chatter. Analysts have started questioning whether any team would actually trade for Murray given his contract and recent injuries. Former NFL defensive lineman and ESPN analyst Booger McFarland publicly suggested that the trade market for Murray would be extremely small. His argument: teams may hesitate to give up draft capital for a quarterback with durability concerns and a massive deal. That matters, because if no team wants to trade for him, Arizona's leverage evaporates. And when leverage disappears in the NFL, releases become very real possibilities. Reports suggest that trade odds are incredibly low. Some insiders have floated a single-digit percentage chance that Murray gets moved via trade. The major roadblock? That enormous contract extension he signed in 2022. We're talking about a deal worth over $200 million, and a lot of guaranteed money still tied to Arizona's books. If the Cardinals decide they've seen enough and move on, releasing him becomes cleaner than trying to find a trade partner willing to absorb that contract. Now here's where things get interesting for the Vikings. If Murray is released, Arizona still owes him guaranteed money. That means, just like we saw when the Denver Broncos released Russell Wilson and he signed cheaply elsewhere, Murray could sign a minimal deal with his next team because he's already getting paid. In football terms, that makes him practically a free quarterback for 2026 from a cap standpoint. And that is the kind of value front offices dream about. If Minnesota had to trade for Murray, they'd inherit that monster contract. That's a completely different discussion. But if he's released, suddenly you're talking about a high-upside quarterback on a bargain deal while keeping all your draft capital intact. And let's be honest, draft picks are gold for a team like the Minnesota Vikings that still wants to build around J.J. McCarthy and strengthen the roster. Now let's talk talent. Because no matter what critics say, Kyler Murray's production over a full 17-game pace is impressive. We're looking at nearly 4,000 passing yards, around 30 total touchdowns, and over 600 rushing yards per season. That's dual-threat explosiveness that defensive coordinators hate. His completion percentage has hovered around the mid to high 60s, and his ability to create off-script is elite. When plays break down, he becomes a nightmare. Athletically, Murray has everything. A rocket arm capable of stretching the field 65 to 70 yards. Sub 4.4 speed in his prime. Quick release. Elite improvisation skills. He's not just a gadget quarterback. He's a legitimate playmaker who can flip a game in a single snap. Yes, he's only reached the playoffs once. Yes, Arizona hasn't consistently contended. But football is the ultimate team sport and context matters. Now let's bring this back to Minnesota. How would he fit under Kevin O'Connell? That's the million-dollar question. O'Connell's system thrives on timing, structure, and middle-of-the-field reads. Murray has historically been more comfortable outside structure. But great coaches adapt. The question isn't whether Murray can fit perfectly. The question is whether the upside outweighs the risk compared to other options. Would you rather roll with a low-ceiling veteran like Jimmy Garoppolo-type bridge options? Or take a swing on a former number 1 overall pick with elite traits? And let's address the locker room narrative. Some critics have questioned Murray's attitude over the years. But context matters here too. The NFLPA report cards recently graded Arizona ownership poorly. Culture plays a massive role in perception. Is Murray the problem? Or was he part of a dysfunctional environment? That's what the Minnesota Vikings front office would need to evaluate deeply. From a pure value standpoint, if Kyler Murray hits the open market, 31 teams can make a call. And if he's available at a minimal cap hit while the Cardinals pay most of the bill, the Vikings almost have to explore it, especially if they want competition or insurance behind McCarthy. This isn't about replacing the young quarterback immediately. It's about maximizing value and raising the ceiling of the roster. Because if you can add a dynamic, proven starter-level quarterback without sacrificing draft picks, that's not just a move, that's a statement. So Skull Nation, I've got to ask you, if Kyler Murray is released tomorrow, do you want the Minnesota Vikings to make the call? Or are you riding fully with J.J. McCarthy and a cheaper veteran backup? Drop your takes in the comments. I want to hear from every corner of Vikings territory. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the latest Noticias dos Minnesota Vikings news, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with every Vikings fan you know. Because if this quarterback domino falls, we're covering every second of it right here. Skol.